College planning for physicians. You are a current physician with children. Clearly, you can also build this on if you have grandkids. This is for your kiddos or possibly grandkids.
Welcome to the Physician Sense Podcast, a podcast designed specifically for physicians, offering a breakdown of complex financial topics to help you develop your financial IQ, further your financial journey, and improve your well-being. Whether you're a medical student, resident, fellow, or attending physician, you're sure to learn something new that will benefit your journey. And now, your hosts, Chad Chubb and Tyler Olson.
Welcome to another episode of the Physician Sense Podcast. I am your co-host, Chad Chubb, joined by the one, the only, the famous yellow Yeti drinking colleague, bestie of mine, Tyler the Olson. I had to dig for that one.
It's great to see you, Chad, and I love the energy you bring every time.
And if you're only listening to the podcast, Tyler just took a big sip out of a nice Yeti water bottle that was yellow. I just wanted to make sure I added context, realizing that most of you catch us on the actual audio version, not the video version. Although the video version is probably more fun. We have a lot of, we're good with our body language.
You get to see my facial expressions when you bring up something that, raises the blood pressure.
Yeah. Yep. Which is good. I always like to watch you get fired up and just to the edge. All right, my friend, we got a good one here. This one actually caught you and I both by surprise. We do not have, at least to the best of our knowledge, unless someone can outsmart us on this one, that we don't have a specific college planning only episode. So today we cover that, my friend. We've touched on this topic in numerous videos, but we've never had it as a standalone, which I am still shocked by that. I'm sure maybe one of the very early episodes was more 529 plan based, college planning based, but not specific. But this one, the title will officially end up being, at least something of this nature, College Planning for Physicians. And we will take this more towards you are a current physician with children. Clearly, you can also build this on if you have grandkids. But this is not college planning like I'm in medical school, because you're past the college part. We're now past that. So this is for your kiddos or possibly grandkids. College planning for physicians. Tyler, where do we start? 529 plans, prepaid plans, covered all plans, which are not very popular anymore. Every now and then we get a Trump account in there, thrown in there, which we can build on if we really label it as a college plan. But where do we start, my friend?
It all starts with a conversation about what a person or what a couple's ideal demonstration of support is. And every person, every family is a little bit different. Even if the numbers are the same, you can feel there's a range of what a family, what a couple or an individual wants to do in support of their child. The spectrum is wide. I have clients that want to be prepared to fully fund undergrad and graduate school 18 years from now. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if we're talking medical school, good Lord, that is a massive amount of money, but that's what their priority is. And so we try to work around that. But in any case, if you're trying to figure out what your college plan should be, you need to have this conversation with yourself and with your spouse, partner, if you're married, and talk about what that looks like for you. I'd say the most typical response I get is we want to be able to pay for undergrad, and everything else after that is up to them. Mm-hmm. Then it's about fitting it in around other competing priorities, retirement, early retirement interest, other goals. Like some want to be able to pay for, like they actually weigh the difference between paying for life experiences with their family in contrast with paying for their undergrad. Like if you had to choose between paying for your kids' undergrad and being able to like pay for experiences with them during their childhood and teenage years, what would you choose? Like having to like limit how much you spend on travel to like a more, diminished role in order to fully fund undergrad. And that's probably more common. They're like, no, I want to like prioritize college. That's really common. But I do have others who are like, no, it's okay if they have to borrow some. I want to be able to like create trust, and I want to create life experiences for them. We're not just having a stay at home all the time, boring life until they're 18 so that they can go off to college and not have to worry about any sort of debt. There's some real conversations that need to be had. So that's where it starts.
That's a deep one. I've never actually thought about it in that way. I haven't had clients really word it that way. I'd like to say we're probably blessed that most of our clients could conquer both of those.
True. Yeah.
But that's a good like the Kinder questions, George Kinder questions, like those ones where you're like, oh my gosh, like that's one that kind of hits your soul on like experiences now versus not being at paper college. Yeah, I probably jumped the gun and went right into funding vehicles, but yes, your question is exactly where you should start. Yeah, I feel like, from our side, that's exactly what we see too. Like, hey, at a minimum, I want to cover undergrad. Every now and then, the planning softwares that we use, we can plug in the university. Every now and then we'll have clients who say like, hey, I don't want to know the university, but plug in 50,000 or 70,000 or 30,000, right? Or maybe 20,000, a great state school, or the example would be. We do get medical school, and we get into even like generational based planning for 529 plans, which I don't think we have to cover today. But yeah, you need to have at least a goal to shoot for, because if not, we don't have a target that we're aiming at, right? And sometimes clients are okay with that, especially I think earlier on in their training, or excuse me, in their attending hood, or if they started in training, where they're like, hey, I can do $100, $200 per month. I don't need to know where I'm fully funded. I just want to say I'm putting something away for them. And it still fits. It's not affecting my other goals. And then we'll have other clients clearly that say like, oh, it's $1,000 per month to send my kid to Penn in the 529 plan now. Great. Let's do $1,000 per month. So I think it can vary there, but having that deeper goals and values conversation, making sure it fits, that's all very well covered in there. I could not agree more. So we get the answer, Tyler. We think we have a good track. What's your favorite funding vehicle? Which I think I know the answer here, but we're going to ask it as if I don't. What do we do? Where do I put this money, Tyler?
It depends. Is that what you were thinking I would say?
That's the compliance answer, yes. But I assume that your number one front runner will start with 3 numbers, but maybe I'm off.
Yeah, no, the 529 is where I'm at in terms of the primary vehicle. Because if your state offers a deduction, well, first of all, if your state charges an income tax, so none of you folks down in Florida, but like if your state charges an income tax and they allow you to deduct 529 plan contributions from that, from that to reduce that tax liability. So like, for example, all of California definitely have a state income tax. They don't allow you to deduct your state income from your to reduce your state income by the contribution, which really stinks, especially because they're in such a high income tax state. So everyone's going to Utah there, not living there. The Utah 529 plan is great. I like that, in a lot of states, you do get a deduction. I know for us in Connecticut, we can get 5,000 for single, 10,000 for joint filers, a maximum deduction of our state income to reduce our tax liability. And then you can invest it. The growth grows federally tax-free if the funds are distributed from, for educational purposes. I think it's a great vehicle. I think it's a matter I try to be measured about with the 529 plan is to be careful not to over-contribute. If you do over-contribute, you're probably looking at a good problem to have, because you're like, oh no, I've got more money than I need and it's been earmarked for education. There's conversations about switching beneficiaries from one kid to the other. You can do that. You can change it to grandkids, although that can have a state tax implications. But I don't think it's a major problem. I just think it's important to not it's not like a later in the years process. It's like a now problem. If you over contribute in a way where what I mean is you could have funded something else. You could have put more toward retirement. You could have gone on more vacations. That's the point. That's the friction point that I pay attention to, because parents understandably very concerned about their child's future and want to take care of it. But if you overdo it, then maybe you end up leaving some money on the table that could have been useful in the near term. Sorry, all my answers today are very long.
No, well, I mean, it's a topic you can go on for. On the over contribution, I agree. I always get less concerned when there's more than one child that you're going to over contribute, because again, easy to spread around amongst your children. We don't see it as often today, but there was a period of time where we even have clients that would come to us and they only opened one 529 plan, but it was like a super pot for all the kids. Again, I don't love that idea, like kind of having separate pots, but to each their own. I think 529 plans continue to get more and more flexible. We now have the Roth rules in there. Even what you can use it on continues to expand. Now it's up to $20,000 per year for K through 12. But I do agree, and we do track. We call it our. And I feel like we discussed this in one of those past ones, but we call it our 75-25 rule, where we're usually trying to fund the goal up to about 75% for college to leave a little bit of wiggle room. And then that other 25% kind of leads us down another rabbit hole. What do we do with that? We're big fans of the parents opening a joint brokerage account where they're in full control. Yes, we could get into the conversations of UTMAs and UGMAs. We still like the parents having a little bit more control. UTMAs and UGMAs, yeah, kitty tax, but also just giving the asset to the child at their age majority. That's usually our big concern. If there is any chance of needs-based financial aid, UTMAs and UGMAs are absolutely horrible. They will destroy that for you. Again, usually not a problem for physician households in the sense of you're probably not getting needs-based financial aid, but you should keep an eye on over-contributing. Some of the nerdy stuff, I feel like Tyler, you and I skip over because we get into, I should say, the non-nerdy stuff. Currently, as we sit here in 2026, annual gift tax exclusion is $19,000 per person, $38,000 per couple. That's usually what we label as your 529 plan contribution limit. Can you do more? You can, but it gets into your lifetime exemption unless you're doing something else called the 5-year rule. The 5-year rule says, hey, you can do all of that in one given year. So take that 19,000 times 5, 95,000, or 38 times 5, 190,000. There is an extra form that gets added into the taxes for that. I know I noted K through 12 up to 20,000 per year per beneficiary. Again, can continue to get more expanded uses, but I want to add a little bit of like the stuff that we kind of glance over. I know you noted state tax benefits. If you do have state tax deductions, that's another big win in there. For those of you that don't have the best plans or you don't have a state tax deduction, Utah seems to be the best plan that we all go to as financial advisors. I know we do. I know you do as well. So I think that covers it pretty well there. One thing I do want to note, one of the nerdy things that changed last year is grandparent-owned 529 plans no longer come into the FAFSA calculation, or I think it's actually called the EFC now. I know it changed names. Before, just a few years ago, that was still calculated in there. So kind of a unique way to really get even, call it supercharged a 529 plan, is if the grandparents own the 529 plan. Just keep in mind, some very prestigious schools will not use the FAFSA, they'll use that CSS. Some of those more prestigious schools can actually ask about grandparent, but for the bulk of us sitting here, grandparent-owned 529 plans are kind of like a bonus hack right now because that changed, I think, 24, 25, somewhere around there. But just another little one to throw in there for the 529 plan. I'm building on top of what you already said. Did I miss anything else in there?
I don't think so. I mean, as far as like infrastructure, where to start, how to build it, where to open it. I mean, the steps are many to actually getting to the point where you're like, okay, this is where we're going to open it. This is how much we're going to fund. But one thing about the funding too, that I like to make sure of is that the other very important priorities are being met. Yeah, it's tough because like I think another thing that we do in order to make sure that it's the appropriate levels is that we check in on the values of the account every couple of years. Maybe not every year, but every 2 years, check on the values of each of the 529 plan accounts, their contributions, the investment performance, because the time horizon, the time frame to using the funds comes so much faster than retirement plans because we're talking 18 years or less. And we also, as parents, we learn a lot about our children. Suddenly, all of a sudden, we're like, oh, well, this is revealing about what their interests are. And I think probably have a lot more substantive conversations about this when the kid is like 14, 15, 16 years old. I know some parents, they have ideas in mind of like what they're like the picture in their mind of what their kid is going to do. But in the end, they're going to do what they are going to do. I mean, of course, if you force them or you try to like, use passive aggressive behavior to like mold your children, I mean, go ahead. But like, if you want to cultivate healthy, trusting relationships with your children, they may very well end up doing something that you had no idea that they were going to do. Like, I don't know what my kid's going to do. He could join me and do what I do if he wants to. He could also go and be an electrician. I don't know. But the difference between the education cost between those two things is very different. So I think it's important to That's what I mean about being measured about contributions. This is more of like a behavioral side, this note that I'm going to say now. It isn't also just about over contribution because, oh no, the money could have been used for something else. It's also the amount of money that's in that account. It will invariably have some kind of impact on our heart if our kids don't use a lot of it. If they just use a little bit of it, or if they plan on not using very much of it, how is that going to affect how we communicate with them and support their education and career and life goals? Are we going to allow that money to turn us into monsters that then try to like force our kids into doing what we want them to so that they use the money? I think it's, obviously I'm being extreme with that, but that is not a 0% chance of that happening, because money can turn us into monsters if we allow it to control our behavior. Instead, we need to look ahead and see how we can manage those dynamics as our kids get older so that it functions as a tool for their benefit and ours and supports the relationship too. Okay, there, I'm done.
Good. No. Well, I think it just comes back to whether we talk about it with our kids or just life in general, right? This is why you should never have expectations. Like if you look at that account and you start putting expectations on it, good or bad, you could be hurt. Maybe it works out perfect and, it pays for 4 years of your favorite university and everything's hunky-dory. But we know there's a lot of course corrections in life. So I think that's a good emotional, behavioral side of the conversation as well. Circling back to the one thing that I noted, if you are concerned about over contributing to the 529 plan, what is your go-to? Are you more of a joint account between the parents? Is this an UTMA and UGMA? Is this you a Coverdell guy that catches me by surprise? What do you do
joint account
for that? Yeah. Okay.
Joint account for sure. Yeah. It provides the most flexibility for usage. It allows the parents to retain control of the assets. Like my problem with the UTMAs and UGMAs is that you need to be measured with how much money you put in there, because I think a lot of us parents, we do have a measure of control in how we reveal information to our kids, not because we're trying to like hide stuff from them that they need to know, but because we're trying to protect them and we're trying to share information that is relevant and that they can handle. But like with those realities in mind, why in the world would we create an account that is legally theirs, that contains tons of money? Like I don't understand the dynamic where you want to be able to like gradually expose them to real responsibility, but then in the same token be like, yeah, this $100,000 account is yours. But like you get to that point as a parent and you might be inclined to be like, well, yeah, that is your money, but it needs to be used for this. That, what that is? That's called lying. Because they can do whatever they want with it. So, well, again, like this is about this is about emotional maturity for us parents. We need to know how these things work so that we don't come to an intersection that we're not prepared for and end up losing trust with our kids. I mean, they want to go out and buy a brand new pickup truck, technically they can do it, right? So I am not a fan of those accounts, unless you're talking about a modest amount.
Yeah. Shout out to the kid if they do decide to buy a pickup truck, though, out of everything else out there. So I'd like to say mom and dad did something right there if they only buy. For those of you that are less moral, like myself, in terms of lying to our kids, I would be lying to my kids if they had an UTMA. I do not have UTMAs or UGMAs for our boys, but I would be like, nope, this account can only be used for your first home down payment. Yeah, it's the rules of the account. Sorry, guys. Although I guess with AI and Grok today, these kids are all going to outsmart us. I'm like, no, that's not true. Look, here's the rules for an UGMA. Like, there goes the account.
See, Chad, don't paint yourself into a corner here. Yeah.
They'll have accounts ready to go like before the account even turns over to them. Like, oh no, I'll be rolling that over immediately. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's where you do have to be, all joking aside, you do need to be careful there. And again, we noted the deeper thought of expectations, right? Again, if you start to set up expectations for these things when our kids are little babies at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, that this is what we know they're going to do as this expectation, there's a lot of life course corrections that are going to occur there. So just be careful there. If you do like the idea of setting money aside for your kids, you can do more formal trust planning where you can truly make your own rules. You get to write those rules. Now, this is where we're getting into much more detailed planning. This is likely not needed for like 99% of you as you sit here now. But if you are like, I like the idea of setting money aside for my kids, but I want more rules. The beauty of the UTMAs and UGMAs is it's kind of a built-in trust. It's a trust document, but it's all laid out in terms of like, these are the overall sweep of rules for everybody. You have no control of that. You have to follow the rules in there, which just says at their age of majority, they get it no matter what. There's no other way to word it. So, just one that comes up quite a bit, and not as much as college planning, but I think sometimes it comes in here. What's your current view on? I would say we don't want anything political. There's no way not to be political in this one in terms of just the name of the account. But what has been your current outlook on Trump accounts? Do you have clients utilizing them? Do you plug them in for college? Are they, hey, nice to have, but probably not going out of our way? What's your current view there in terms of funding for kids, whether it's probably, again, not the best college vehicle, but at least kind of blended into the conversation?
I think it has potential. I mean, I don't have any clients that are using it yet. My current understanding as of mid-May is there's still some gaps to fill, especially in terms of like tax ramifications and like estate tax ramifications in particular. I think that they could be useful, especially like if someone was to systematically invest in that fund every year from birth until they're 18 and invested it. That could be a really nice nest egg for retirement because it converts to an IRA at that point. And I think it's interesting too that you have to invest it in low cost index funds. Although I'm wondering like what platforms, like, cause I like on the Trump account's website, it says that like you fill out this form and then like someone's going to be in touch with you about like where the assets will be custodied. And that I don't like on its surface, just because like it makes me think of I-bonds. I-bonds, like, yeah, they had like a pretty decent interest rate for a while. But boy, was it a hassle to like deal with that website. And like the assets are like outside, they're elsewhere, and it's annoying. And I don't know where these are going to be held at. Like so far, we haven't seen any indications from Vanguard or any of the other major platforms. They're like, yep, we're going to be able to house Trump accounts on our platform. Have you? I mean, maybe there's something new. I haven't seen anything, but I think isn't this like a July start time?
Yeah, that's what I believe it was. Maybe July 1st.
Okay. And of course, when you're all listening to this, it is July, but now it's not July as we talk. So I think that's my main thing is like logistics. I think conceptually it's great. $5,000 a year per kid. There's no deduction. It just essentially like allows you to like put money aside for retirement for your kids, for their own retirement. And at such an early age, when there's so much time, it can be really useful. I just don't know where these things are going to be housed and what their long-term functionality looks like.
Here, I have some breaking news for you. Now, this is AI. I always forget that their actual name is a 530A account, but this currently says that they'll initially be held with the U.S. Treasury as the designated financial agent. But BNY Mellon will be the custody. Here's a crazy one for you. There also will be partnering with Robinhood for the app, the user interface, and the customer service. These accounts should be live on the great 4th of July, 2026 is what they're noting. It says that you will not be able to open them directly at Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab at launch. That might change over time. I do find it interesting that it is low-cost funds for you and I. We love that, right? That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I keep telling clients I think there's probably better alternatives out there. I think if your child was born in 2025 to 2028, the $3,000 is somewhat intriguing. But at the same time, to your point on the I-bonds is is $1,000 really worth all the hassle to do all this? I think it just depends on your viewpoints on a few things, but I don't think it would not be something to replace a 529 plan. We've had that question. If anything, it's be something
Oh, yeah, certainly not.
This complements the big picture.
I totally forgot we're talking about college savings.
Yeah.
The 530A accounts, these are an entirely different purpose. So no, this is what we call a side quest in financial planning, everyone.
Add in random accounts into topics where it doesn't belong. The only reason why I plugged it in there is because we have had a decent amount of clients, and I say if a decent amount of clients ask it, I know it's out there in the world, asking like, can I use this as a college option or to replace 529 plans, which again, we covered that one. But as we're sitting here recording this towards the end of May, we'll likely know more by the time this goes live on August 1st, but we don't have all the details. But that was the most I've seen about it so far. So that is, we'll see if that actually ends up being true. But that you would think they have to have this stuff ironed out. We're 2 months away? Not even, less than 2 months away from this going live. So you got to be somewhat organized here to get this. And I know clients have been hoarding, because the only way to fund these thus far has been through your tax return. So clients have been noting these. If they wanted one, they added that form to their taxes recently with the refund. So
yeah, that's another thing. That's so stupid that they're like, yeah, the 2025, yeah. I mean, you can do the amendment. Sure. It's just like hassle. Like, this is annoying. Like, and like maybe in a year I'll be like, oh, these are so easy to use because it gets built out. Also, the exclusivity of the account being like, well, it's either with, the Treasury or with Robinhood. Like, no thanks. Like, I'm like, to have to open up a different account on a different platform just for this purpose. It's like, okay, why are we doing this? So maybe it will become evident that it's worth it. But for now, I'm still a bit skeptical.
My friend, college planning for physicians, heavy 529 plans, heavy value-based conversation to start, maybe some other ideas to mix in there. Anything else to add in closing? I think we covered it pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, allow your heart into the conversation, but don't let it be the leader.
Ooh. Mic drop. Catch you on the next episode, my friend.
Take care, man.
See ya.
This information is for general purposes only. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific professional, financial, or tax advice, as individual concerns vary. Please see a financial professional, CPA, and/or an attorney in regards to your own individual situation. Wealth Wheels Advisory Services and Financial Planning offered through Vicus Capital Inc., a federally registered investment advisor. Olson Consulting LLC, offering advisory services and financial planning, is a state-registered investment advisor.